Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker, a real estate investor helping you realize your dreams of owning a home or investing in one. Well, as many of you are aware, Ice Cube came out with the contract for Black America. But what many don't seem to be aware of is that the National Black Caucus actually came up with something very similar back in 2018. It's a bill called the Jobs and Justice Act. I don't believe that this has been passed as of yet, and it just got me wondering because when I compare the two, the contract for Black America and the Jobs and Justice Act, they seem quite similar, to be honest with you, particularly in the area of real estate. Now, what I'm going to go through with you, this particular video is just going to be focused on that Jobs and Justice Act. I will talk about the contract for Black America in another video / podcast. Okay, so let's delve right into it, shall we? Right, first off, in my humble opinion, when I reviewed the bill, it seems as though it's doing a whole lot more for people who are tenants as opposed to homeowners or investors, okay? Particularly when it comes to landlord-tenant matters. Here are what they do plan to do as far as improving the housing situation otherwise in the United States. They want to stop the defunding of affordable housing programs. Many of you ask on many of the other videos, is the Section 8 voucher program still on, particularly those for housing? It is. It's just that it's been cut. The number of people that will receive that is not as much as in the past since President Trump has been elected, and the amount of money that's been offered within that program has been cut as well. It hasn't been stopped, it's just been cut. So they want to, and it's not just that program, but it's all programs across the board, plus the Affirmative Act for fair housing that's been canceled altogether. So basically what this bill was saying was to put more money back into affordable housing. Particularly also, they do want to increase the Section 8 vouchers that are given out. And they also want to put more money into supportive housing, particularly for victims of domestic violence. They also want to establish grants for various homelessness programs throughout the United States. They want to improve public housing. They want to cancel the fact that, there was a law passed, I think it was passed actually before Obama, where if you had a criminal record, you couldn't get federal housing. Well, they want to reverse that and make it open so that people who may have had a past criminal record would not be denied federal housing. Because as many of you know who've been following me, some people who have been caught, for example, with marijuana, they still have that on their record. And yet in their state, marijuana is legal. So it sort of doesn't make any sense to have a criminal record on marijuana, which is now legal in your state. So that's really what that is going to focus on, or what it's referring to. The next area is foreclosure. They want to increase counseling and grants for foreclosure prevention, and these would definitely be more seen in states where they have a high tendency of foreclosure than others. They also want to have more workout and loan modification agreements implemented. They want to increase the metrics for housing discrimination because they feel as though it's not broad enough and it's not easily metered to determine whether or not people are being discriminated against, or whether or not people are just not applying, because that also happens as well. Next, they want to look into infrastructure development, highways, roads, bridges, things of that nature. They want to try to hire more minority contractors, because if you look throughout the United States, most of those contracts actually go to white-owned businesses and not black-owned or Hispanic-owned businesses, for that matter. But to tell you the truth, a lot of times white-owned businesses, what do? They hire Hispanic, sometimes West Indian contractors to work for them. And many of times those people, not all, I'm not trying to be prejudiced or anything, but sometimes they're not legally documented. So that's an issue. They also plan to try to recruit more from the communities that is affected or will benefit from the improved infrastructure, meaning they will hire more from the actual community, go to local churches to see who there would be qualified. They want to encourage commercial investment in underserved areas, and they also want to give tax benefits to anyone who does business in an underserved area as well. When it comes to natural disasters such as Hurricane Katrina and other situations that have occurred, such as the hurricane, I believe, that hit Puerto Rico, disaster relief was lacking, to say the least. So they want to expand grants for disaster relief to those communities, because some of those communities are still rebuilding, believe it or not. And they also want it so that if it happens again, because especially when it comes to like Florida and Texas, they always get it. It's just that you don't always know where and when that hurricane is going to hit and how much damage it's going to do. They want to expand grants in those places so that they can recover a little bit more quicker than they have in the past. Next, they want to increase the CDBG grant, and they also want to demand that whoever receives that grant complies to environmental protection. The CDBG grant is Community Development Block Grant. It's given to people, to real estate developers. As mentioned before in the past, they have cut the number of grants that they give to real estate developers. So that's why many of them were not building affordable housing at all. They were like, well, if we're not going to get the money, if we're not going to get the tax cuts, why build? So that's one of the reasons why there was such a shortage of affordable property. Next thing that they want to do is they want to begin to invest more in areas where poverty has been persistent, particularly doing a study where from, let's say, 1990 till now, if 20% of that particular population or more in a particular area has consistently been underdeveloped, consistently where the people are extremely poor, money will be pumped into, number one, establish credit unions, number two, to provide room and board to those who live in those communities who want to go to college, number three, to provide training to first-time homeowners so that they can receive grants to buy homes. Number four, they also want for those who already have homes in those communities to give them grants to help them replace and repair their homes. But the amount that they would be given would not exceed 120% of whatever the home price in that area is. In addition, that building must meet building codes. And lastly, for those areas in particular, but they do want to expand it out even outside of those areas, is to improve financial literacy at all levels for both high school and college graduates. So I bring this to you because I saw where a lot of people were saying, gee, Ice Cube, he's a rapper. Why is it that a rapper came up with this contract and the government has not? The truth is that you do have members in the government that do have this bill on. It's been sitting there from 2018. The president has not vetoed it, but he has not passed it either. And I just find it very strange that his platinum bill is going to be taken from the contract with Black America, which is a lot smaller in nature and is not as broad spanning when it comes to helping the African American community as the Jobs and Justice Act. I just find that very puzzling, but I wanted to give you the facts so that you are aware of what's going on. Okay? So guys, that's all I have for you tonight for this particular episode. Please feel free to share this. Remember, each one, reach one, teach one. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.